Good day. My thesis statement is U.S. political intervention in Iraq should gradually impede because it creates suspicions on U.S. foreign policy, it causes further sociopolitical instability, and leads to the possibility of war. Now, the first, U.S. political intervention in Iraq creates suspicions on U.S. foreign policy. After the 1991 Gulf War, Saddam Hussein was still in power and in position. According to the website Frontline, he was believed to be in possession of a huge stockpile of deadly mass weapons, such as chemical weapons, nuclear bombs, and other biological weapons. With this at hand, U.S. considered Iraq as a threat. That Iraq poses a threat to U.S., to Iraq's peripheries, and to the whole international community. Now that the grave that Iraq has posed is grave and imminent, U.S. think that they had to quickly act upon the situation and invade and occupy Iraq. As suggested by McKay, the Baghdad region did not pose a direct threat to U.S. However, it did to Israel. This is an underlying provocative force that made U.S. intervene in Iraq to protect the Israeli and the U.S. bilateral relations. My second argument, as stated by Ahmed, U.S. intervention in Iraq was for the purpose to mobilize the Iraqi oil production to sustain global oil flows and to moderate the global oil prices. As we all know, Iraq is a member of OPEC and it has the home of the second world largest oil reserve. So this made U.S. more enticed to exploit the geostrategic location of Iraq. But in a speech, Deputy Assistant Secretary Brett McGurk has said that U.S. was only there to support the oil production of Iraq. He irritated that U.S. was there to give invaluable assistance to Iraq's economy. Argued by Luban, U.S. intervention in Iraq only allowed more big U.S. oil companies to get their hands on the Iraqi soil. As more and more big U.S. oil companies got to explore and to exploit and develop their companies in Iraq, such as Chevron and Exxon and others. The third argument is that U.S. was planning to build a long-term military relationship with Iraq. This move would grant U.S. more access to the Iraqi military base and also to project American influence in Iraq. On the other side, President Obama was irritating and repeatedly vowed that the U.S. military troops that was sent to Iraq was only for the purpose to train, to advise, and to equip the Iraqi forces. Now, that statement of President Obama can be refuted by Army General Martin Dempsey's statement. He told before the House Armed Services Committee that the U.S. military troops in Iraq could fight alongside the Iraqi forces. This is completely incoherent with what President Obama has said. The second point, U.S. political intervention in Iraq causes further sociopolitical instability in the place. The first argument is about the revolutionary image of Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein, as viewed by the U.S. as a megalomaniacal leader, an aggressive and an adventurous U.S. providing its rationale for intervening in Iraq, is that Saddam Hussein is allegedly associated with the terrorist network of Osama bin Laden, the Al-Qaeda. Moreover, Bayman stated that the problems in Iraq is inherent with the Baghdad regime. As long as Saddam Hussein is in position, there would be this internal problem in Iraq. According to Nickermayer, after the U.S. removed Saddam Hussein from position, a starkly disparate emotions of Iraqi people wanted to fight against the Americans. A concrete example provided by Nickermayer is Yaha, a shopkeeper in the city of Tikrit. He shouted that all Iraqi people must now carry arms to fight against the Americans. The second argument is when the U.S. and its allies invaded Iraq on March 2003 to fight against terrorism, to abolish the Baghdad region, and to eliminate the mass weapons. It was pioneered by the United States of America to eliminate the Ba'ath Party of Saddam Hussein. Even so, US's convincing plot in invading Iraq it cannot conceal the war crimes it has cemented in Iraq. The Iraqi children, for example, they were deprived from going to school because during the war, the schools shut. Also, hundreds and thousands of Iraqi people have lost their homes, their livelihoods, and their family members. According to Vergano, from year 2003 to 2011, 405 deaths were already attributable to the U.S. intervention or occupation in Iraq. Third argument. U.S. had notably come to intervene in Iraq for the purpose of liberating the Iraqi people. According to Socialist Alternative website, now that the U.S. had successfully toppled Saddam Hussein's regime, a new U.S.-backed government Iraq will come into light. This will be entirely subservient to U.S. interests and will not represent the needs of the Iraqi people. In line with this, U.S. counter-argued that this act was already moving towards democracy, and U.S. was just a mere mediator of the newly established Iraqi government. Bennis, on the other hand, refuted that the 2005 Iraqi constitution drafting was not a sign of the Iraqi people's democracy and sovereignty taking in place, but rather it is to project the American control and influence in the Iraqi in Iraq. In fact, the constitution drafting and amendments were not being consented to the Iraqi government, to the newly established Iraqi government. Third point, U.S. political intervention in Iraq should gradually impede because it leads to the possibility of war. First argument, the Iraqi civic nation was angered by the surprise attack conducted by U.S. and its allies on March 2000. The U.S. invaded Iraq without prior declaration and thus not giving the Iraqi people prior knowledge. U.S. stated that as long as the invasion was for the purpose of liberating the Iraqi people, to end Saddam Hussein's support for terrorism, and to disarm the Iraq weapons of mass destruction, U.S. did not have the need to give declaration for its occupation. Kogan asserted that U.S. is clearly responsible for the sectarian civil war that is happening in Iraq. Since then, violent conflicts and passionate leaders fervently arose from the religious groups, Sunnis and Shiites, which made them more radical and which caused more civil wars in the succeeding years. Second argument, ISIS had emerged from the radical Sunnis, which became more extreme in terms of murder and violence. For example, Parry stated the new depths of depravity it had taken actions. For example, they rape women and they brutally kill and decapitate people. In response to ISIS escalating human rights violation, the U.S. had taken new stepped up in its military intervention, which is political in nature. Brooke noted that the U.S. launched airstrikes badly damaged ISIS training compounds, headquarters, command control, and storage facilities. Associated Press noted that the ISIS responded by posting videos of beheadings of for example, the American journalist Foley. The airstrikes paved way to more series of decapitations of different nationalities, and this thrusted more countries to join the airstrikes or the coalition to fight against ISIS. So, to name some of these countries, we have France, Australia, the United Kingdom, and many others. Down to the third and last argument. In the city of Mosul, today, there are more and more of ISIS bases are being built. With this, U.S. became more persistent in eradicating these foreign fighters in Iraq. U.S. effort ranged from the implementation of military reforms, the installation of military strategies which will hone a sophisticated and a well-armed Iraqi military. With U.S. expansion in Iraq in relation to the ISIS threat, the ISIS attacked an Iraqi military base and a number of coalition forces, which the American forces fired back for self-defense, and now they are now involved in the actual fight against the ISIS, which is very incoherent with what President Obama said. This is now following the path of the 2003 Iraq War, which will eventually lead to the declaration of an all-out war.